Hello everyone, good evening. My name is Dr. Raymond. I'm a project manager in Prima Access. So today we are going to cover an interesting topic known as enrichment program. So this topic is going to cover around 20 minutes and we are going to learn as a lab practitioner, as a caretaker, what we can do to make our animals happy. So first thing, this is my strong belief. Happy animals is always equal to healthy animals. If you look at Google and if you type in happy animals, these are the top 10 images that comes up from my search. What about you? I particularly like this one. So you can see all this very nice looking face. Yeah, cute. And of course, before I start, I would always like to introduce some of the movies or character that I like. One of it is the series of Planets of Apes. Planets of Apes is actually a movie that they are talking about apes, kind of like monkey. And of course, you can see that they are not happy. No tea, nothing, with gun, riding on horse, coming to you. Yeah, so of course we know that that's not a happy ending. So what happened is that those apes, some of them, they are experimental animals and being abused by human. And of course, somehow they break through the chain and then come out and something not good is happening. And because they are persistently not happy, that's why you have the second episode and also the third episode. So for you guys that haven't watched Planet of Apes, go watch it. How about in Malaysia? Is there any act or any regulation that governs the welfare of animals? Yes, there is. The Malaysian Animals Welfare Act 2015. In this act, it is stated that all research, testing, and teaching using animals must be done with a license or performed by school or university only. The animal must be well taken care of. Even when pain and suffering cannot be avoided, it must be minimized, or the tester will face consequences, be it fine or jail. Hence, animal testing actually has a regulation to govern it, and it has already been stated that the welfare of the animals, be it physical or psychological, has to be taken care of. So unless that you want your animals in the lab to be at your right side, no tea, not happy with gun, persistently not happy, jumping on you, I would rather prefer the animals to show some tea, of course with a smiling face to me. Yeah, so to design enrichment program, practically first we have to understand our animals. And enrichment program might be new for you, but practically you can see it that way. That is a program that caretaker can do to make the animals happy. So we can actually put toys in and stuff like that. But first, we have to understand our animals because different animals, they have different behavior and thus require different types of enrichment program to manage them. We look at some of the common model for research in Malaysia community. Among them, we have mouse, immunocompromised mouse, rat, rabbit, hamster, and guinea pig. So first we look at rats. Some of the common models being used in Malaysia are Sprague-Dawley rats, Wistar rat, spontaneous hypertensive rat. Okay, this one is a type of rat that can develop hypertension by themselves. Wistar Kyoto, these are the control for spontaneous hypertensive rats. Koto Kakizaki rats. This is basically a models that can be used for diabetic disease because they can develop spontaneous diabetes condition. For mouse, we have ICR mice, PAPSI mice. This is probably one of the most famous inbred model being used in Malaysia. C57 black mice, and a lot more basically. So for laboratory animals, first you need to know which type of animals we are using, because for mice and rats, they can actually have a slightly different enrichment requirement. Of course, that would be very different if you are using rabbits, guinea pigs, and hamster. So as a caretaker, when we want to take care of the animals, what would we first consider? Of course, that would be physiological needs. Their needs to eat, to drink, to have a shelter, and a safe environment. Therefore, the cages design look like this. We have a wire mesh on top of it. We have diet. We have their pellet. And then we have water bottles and bedding for them to sleep. That is to fulfill their physiological needs, the needs to survive. But how about the psychological needs? The needs to control. The needs to control their life, to have companion, to have toys, to interact with the environment. Is those kind of needs being fulfilled? And why are we looking at psychological needs? Is this important? I would say the answer is yes. Because if you look at it, if a stressed animals and a healthy animals, if you compare their blood profile, they probably look very different. And we also look at a very small and simple experiment whereby we have one animal that is being constantly shocked by a very minute little electrical shock unconditionally, where he cannot learn and he cannot avoid. That would cause the animal to become very stressed. On the other hand, we have a healthy animals. So those kind of electrical shock definitely cannot damage the animals physiologically. Physically, they cannot damage the animal. However, if you look at mental parameter, if you look at blood parameter, their parameter might be very different. Hence, psychological needs has to be fulfilled. So, enrichment program is basically a program that the caretaker can implement in a facility to ensure that the psychological needs of the animals is fulfilled. So that can be implemented by multiple approaches. One of the approaches is to apply some toys we known as enrichment material to them. So if you were to put any enrichment materials into the cages, there are a few considerations that probably the caretaker has to be considered. First, it must be safe. It must not contain any sharp edges that can hurt the animals. If it is made out of plastic, try to do a drop test on it to ensure that it is not brittle. Second, it must not interfere in your experiment. Your experiment outcome is very important. If not, the animal's life might just go to drain. Yeah. Hence, you must make sure that there is no confounding factor. The material does not contain any chemicals that will interfere in your experiment. Third, it must be relevant to your animals. Different animals have different behavior, and they behave and interact differently with their environment. We take an example of a cat. If we put a ball to the cat will react very well to them, playing with them, taunting. However, if you apply the same size, same ball to mice and rats, they probably doesn't think that way, because each of the animal characteristic is different. Fourth, it must be compatible with animal handling. It must not interfere in your handling of the animals. It must not be too bulky. It must not be obstructive. Fifth, of course, is relate to point number one. You need to know what is the material of the enrichment so that you know that it is safe. It must not interfere in your experiment. So before we go into designing enrichment program, first we have a look. What if the animals is stressed, they are abnormals, okay? What are the behavior that can be expressed? We take an example of mice over here. So if the animals is stressed, they can exhibit aggression. Aggression is actually fighting against each other. They become aggressive. So aggression can actually happen when their temperature, I mean the environment temperature is too high. That can induce aggression. Apart of that, if the housing density is too dense, that can also attract them to fight against each other. Infanticide. Infanticide is an action of killing their own kids. Killing their own kids. It's not normal as well. Food grinding. Food grinding is an activity whereby the animal just chew on the food but never eat them and then let all the food goes down. Okay, that is not a normal behavior as well. And barbering. Look at the image that we have here. Look around the eye. There is no fur there because barbering is an action of compulsive hair pulling. That can happen around the body as well. Yeah, where they pull off the hair is not normal. So if you saw all this abnormal behavior, it is a high time for you to apply enrichment program. But of course, enrichment program is also about preventive measures. We don't really want to see all this abnormal behavior to happen at the first place. You could actually apply that from the beginning. So we look again at some of the mouse behavior. Before we look at it, we need to understand the animals from the very beginning. First, starting from natural history. Basically, mice and rats, they are small animals. They follow human tracks. And then, while human develop into all different kind of land, that goes along as well. So as a small animals, their behavior is that they tend to avoid bigger animals. They tend to avoid predators. Do they rely a lot on smell? Yes, they are very sensitive to smell. How about their eye, their vision? Maybe not that much. They don't really have a good vision there. And mice likes to burrow. This is their nature character. They like to go burrowing, and then they also like to build their own nests. So these are the characteristics of a wild rodent when they are at their natural habitat, when they are at their own home. How about lab animals? Do they have the same material to express this kind of behavior, to resume back their normal behaviors? This is actually depends on us. So behavior management is not all entirely about materials. Actually, putting friends in is a good enrichment program, such as group housing. You do group housing so that they have companion with each other. They can support each other. So this kind of stimulation is a good stimulation mentally. And we really want that to happen. Hence, group housing is actually something that we should practice if it doesn't affect the experiment. We should encourage group housing. But of course, be mindful that not to put too many animals. For rats, depending on the weight and size, maximum is 3. For mice, maximum is 5. Also depend on the size. So we take a look on a few types of materials that we can actually put in. First thing is nesting material. As I mentioned just now, mice, they like to build their own nest actually. So we can actually put in some nesting material so that they can express themselves and make a nest out of it, such as crinkle paper, wood wool, compressed cotton square, whereby they can pull them out and then build their own nest. We can also put in tissue papers. They can do that with tissue papers as well. And if we stuff those nesting material into a foraging box like this, that can increase the difficulty for them to actually take it out. But that's a good thing because that can actually let them have better time, more time to interact with the environment. That's exactly what we want. We want them to have a daily activity there. A part of that, if some of you think that, nah, I want something that maybe is more convenient to be used, you can consider something like this. It's known as alpha trays. These are crinkle papers that is being twisted and squeezed into pellet. So just put one scoop there and then they will actually take it out. I give you a simple illustration of videos. The video doesn't exist. Okay. So a part of that, we have the behavioral management tools, for example, like grounding materials, such as this. These are chew sticks because rodents, they have constantly growing front teeth. So they need to grind on something to make them shorter consistently. So we can put in chew stick for them to grind on. We could also put in shelters and tubes such as this so that they can interact with their environments and have some activities even inside the cage. So of course, creativity's rules, and some of the institute, they have better ideas on how to do things, such as example, UITM. So these are enrichment tools that they use. They come up with this kind of tubes that is being made of plastic. Of course, they already know what are the materials. They've washed it properly. These are boxes, unused boxes, and shredded papers. Okay, those is actually a good enrichment tool. And does the animals interact with those enrichment tools? Okay, that's the thing that define whether this is a good enrichment for the animals or not. And they have did some research, and it shows that you can see that the animals is actually playing with it, and you can see all these shredded papers and stuff like that. The animals is starting to pull them into a nest form. Okay, this is a good sign because they are showing interactions with this kind of material, starting to build nests from it. That's a very good thing. And that's things that we want to see. Yeah, and some more examples. Boxes. And also these are those containers that they use to put eggs on it. Yeah, so which is something that is creative. Yeah, good work. Yeah. So hence, I would like to repeat the same sentence and the gist of the presentations. Happy animals is always healthy animals. With that, I would like to thank you very much for your attention. Goodbye.